So, what if the global resource crisis? What if it isn't really about economics at all? Today we're going to look at two pretty wild but powerful new ways to think about our planet's health. First, as a living body that's getting sick, and second, as a giant computer that's about to crash hard. All right, let's just get right into it. The numbers here are, well, they're pretty stark. By 2035, and that's not far off, we're looking at some serious shortages of the minerals that basically run our world. We're talking about a 33% gap in copper, a whopping 38% for lithium, and 14% for cobalt. And, these aren't just abstract numbers on some report. This is the stuff that makes everything go, from our phones and electric cars to the entire energy grid.
But here's where it gets really interesting, and it's the core question we're tackling today. What if these shortages aren't just, a problem for economists or supply chain managers? What if they're actually symptoms of something way, way bigger? Could it be that the planet itself is trying to tell us something?
So, our first way of looking at this asks us to take that idea seriously, to stop seeing the Earth as just a big rock full of stuff for us to mine, and instead see it as a living, breathing, conscious body. An organism. And if it's an organism, then all those mineral shortages, well, those are its symptoms. It's telling us it's sick.
Now, this whole idea has roots in a really old practice called alchemical translation. And really, it's just a different way of seeing things, a metaphorical lens, right? It views the Earth as this single connected system where every single element, every mineral has a specific job to do, kind of like the organs in your own body.
And this is where it really clicks. A copper shortage? Suddenly, it's not just a problem for making wires. In this view, it's like the planet's entire nervous system is starting to fray. A lithium deficit? That's not just about batteries anymore. It's like the Earth's brain and its glands are under massive stress. Not enough nickel? Its bones get brittle. And a lack of cobalt? Well, that's like thinning out the very blood and marrow of the planet's heart.
And this way of thinking doesn't stop with industrial metals. It goes all the way to gold and silver. So gold stops being just a thing you trade. It becomes Sol, the sun metal, representing the planet's pure, unbreakable spirit. And silver? That becomes Luna, the moon metal, which is all about intuition, flow, and reflection.
So if you imagine the Earth as a body, gold is like its solar plexus, the absolute core of its life force. And silver, that's its lymphatic system, the fluids that cleanse and purify the whole organism. So think about that. When we mess with these metals, we're not just playing the markets. We're literally tinkering with the planet's spiritual lifeblood.
Okay, so that's the first lens. Now, let's switch gears to the second one. What's cool about this one is that it takes that ancient organic idea of a living body and translates it into the language we all understand today, technology. It asks us to see the Earth as one massive, incredibly complex computer system.
So in this view, the Earth isn't a body anymore. It's a conscious stack. Think of it like a planet-sized computer. And all its resources? Those are the different layers of its operating system. And just like any piece of software, this Planetary OS can get buggy. It can suffer from bloat, run inefficiently, and build up all sorts of critical errors, things we can call debt and friction.
And how do you keep a computer this big running smoothly? Well, this framework suggests something called the 5-3-1 rule. It's basically a design principle for keeping the system stable. The idea is you have a simple ratio, 5 parts foundational stuff, 3 parts that connect everything together, and 1 core part that gives the whole thing its meaning and direction. It's all about creating harmony instead of the chaos you get from just growing for the sake of growing.
And check this out. This is where it gets really brilliant. Those same mineral shortages we talked about, they get a totally new diagnosis in this tech framework. Copper is the basic connectivity layer, right? So a shortage means it's suffering from methodological debt. Just think of it like a network with a ton of broken links and slow connections. Lithium is the processing layer, so its shortage creates agentic friction. Basically, the whole system becomes unstable and glitchy. And cobalt, the core anchor, a lack of it creates attention debt, which just drains the whole system's battery.
So, there you have it. 2 really powerful warnings coming from 2 totally different places, the ancient alchemist and the modern systems architect. So, how are we as a species responding to all this? Well, if you follow these frameworks, the answer is not great. We're basically just slapping on some quick, short-sighted fixes that are actually making the problem worse.
First up, there's what we could call the planetary band-aid, aluminum. As copper gets harder and harder to find, we're just swapping it out for aluminum. But think about that alchemical body metaphor again. This is literally like trying to patch up the planet's nervous system using its skin. It's just a brittle, inefficient, and really superficial fix that doesn't solve the underlying issue.
And it doesn't matter which lens you use to look at it. From the alchemist's view, we're stripping the planet's skin to patch its veins. From the tech perspective, we're installing a cheap, buggy plugin into the main operating system. Either way, the result is exactly the same. A really fragile solution that just creates new dangers and actually makes the original problem even bigger.
All right, the second fix is even bolder. The idea here is to try and escape the messy physical world altogether, with all its depleted metals and limitations. How? By pivoting to something that seems totally immaterial, cryptocurrency. Now, this gets framed as a kind of digital alchemy, right? A great work that's supposed to create this perfect, weightless elixir of value. But there's always a but. The big warning here is that if we're not super careful, this dream of digital freedom could flip and become the exact opposite, a centralized digital prison built on surveillance and control. And the real irony? This supposedly immaterial prison would still need a mind-boggling amount of real-world energy and resources just to keep the lights on. Okay, so this all brings us to a huge, crucial choice for humanity. We've seen the diagnosis, right? The planetary illness. And we've looked at our flawed attempts to fix it. So the big question is, what's the real solution?
And what's so powerful, I think, is that both of these very different viewpoints, the alchemist looking at a sick planet and the systems architect seeing a computer crash, they end up telling us the exact same thing. Stop treating the symptoms. Our so-called fixes aren't fixing anything. They're just hitting the accelerator on the way to a total breakdown.
So the source material argues that the real answer isn't what you'd expect. It's not about discovering some new wonder material to mine or inventing some new tech to get around the problem. The real work is internal. It's about a fundamental shift in how we see and relate to the planet and everything on it.
This is what's being called the Great Transmutation that's required. It's a huge shift in our collective mindset. It means moving from just mindlessly extracting resources to actually being conscious stewards of the planet. It means we stop obsessing over endless growth and instead start looking for balance and harmony. Really, it's about leaving behind the chaos we're in now and moving toward a whole new kind of clarity.
And so, in the end, both of these ways of looking at the world leave us with a really provocative and maybe uncomfortable final question. They force us to take a hard look at everything we call progress and ask, are all these amazing innovations and clever fixes actually building a better, more stable world? Or are we just getting really, really good at engineering a faster collapse? The choice, it seems, is still ours.